All right, let's dive in. Today, we're tackling something pretty unique, Huawei's approach to human resources.
Yeah, this is a fascinating one.
You wanted to understand how they build such a high-performing team, and believe me, it's anything but too ordinary.
It really is.
I mean, their philosophy is really something else.
It is.
So to get into this,
Yeah.
we dove into some pretty cool sources.
Okay.
One was this book, it's actually in Chinese, called Huawei's Talent Activation Method.
Oh, wow.
And the other is one you might have heard of in English, Good Warriors Speak. Both of these really helped us understand how Huawei thinks differently, you know?
Yeah.
And one of the first things that jumped out at us was that they intentionally avoid the information services industry,
Interesting.
which, you know, on the surface seems kind of counterintuitive for a tech giant like Huawei, right?
Yeah, it does.
Why wouldn't they want to be in that space?
Right.
But it really speaks to this commitment they have to, well, fostering this pressure cooker environment for innovation.
That's right. It's like they're choosing discomfort to stay sharp.
Exactly. And Ren Zhengfei,
Their founder.
yeah, he's actually stated that entering that information services industry would, like, essentially remove that pressure. They could just dominate, right?
They could.
Just by selling their own products and services without really facing any true competition.
From Easy Street.
Yeah, and they're choosing not to do that.
It's a choice.
It's like, you know, thinking about our own lives, sometimes we get too comfortable,
Oh, yeah.
and that comfort can really kill our drive to innovate, to grow.
100%.
So I think that's a good lesson for all of us, right?
Anytime.
But moving on from external pressures,
Okay.
Huawei also really emphasizes building a strong internal culture.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, you know, throwing money at people.
Yeah.
They really believe that true cohesion comes from something deeper.
Right. It's that shared sense of purpose.
Exactly.
That strong alignment between the company culture and their national culture as well.
Yeah, there's this great anecdote about Ren Zhengfei actually adding, love the company, love your job, to the statement, love the country, love the people.
Oh, wow.
You know, it's really about instilling that sense of patriotism and shared identity.
Absolutely.
But how does all of this actually translate into, you know, real value creation within the company?
Right.
How does Huawei even define value in the first place?
So they've identified 4 key elements
Okay.
involved in value creation, and those are labor, knowledge, entrepreneurship, and capital.
Okay, so far that sounds pretty standard.
It does, but the order in which they place these elements,
Okay, I'm intrigued.
it's super telling.
Tell me more.
Labor and knowledge,
Yeah.
which represent the employees.
Right.
They come before entrepreneurship and capital.
Oh.
This is huge GE.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big
It's
statement.
like they're directly challenging that traditional business model.
The one that puts profits above everything else.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that really highlights their commitment to treating their employees as, like, human capital.
Human capital to be invested in,
To be nurtured.
to be grown.
Not just resources to be exploited, you know?
You got it.
And that makes their automatic salary reduction system during tough times even more interesting.
Oh, yeah, that's a fascinating one.
It's not just about cost cutting, it's about protecting their most valuable asset, their people.
Right.
And that leads us to another really fascinating part of their approach, their value distribution system.
This is where it gets complex.
Okay, bear with me. I'm still wrapping my head around this one.
Okay, so they've categorized this system into 9 distinct forms.
9. Okay, we got to break this down.
We do.
For me, and for anyone listening who's like, what the heck is a value distribution system?
Right.
Help us out here.
So it's not just about salaries and bonuses, right?
Okay, I'm listening.
They take a much more holistic approach, encompassing opportunities for growth,
Okay.
increased authority, stock options,
Oh, okay, I see where this is going.
and even benefits like retirement and healthcare.
Wow, so they're really considering the whole picture.
The full spectrum.
Yeah, not just the direct compensation.
Exactly.
This is pretty mind-blowing.
It is. It's helpful to think of these 9 forms as like a matrix.
A matrix. Okay, keep going.
One quadrant focuses on things like, salary, bonuses, retirement, healthcare.
The stuff you directly own and use.
Right. And then another quadrant delves into like stock ownership,
Okay, stock ownership. Interesting.
where the individual owns the stock, but the company retains usage rights.
Wait a minute, that stock ownership piece?
Yeah.
Does that tie into their whole knowledge capitalization concept?
You got it.
Okay, I remember seeing that mentioned, but I didn't quite get it.
So they're basically saying your expertise, your innovation, it has value.
Right.
And we're going to reward you for that
By giving you a stake in the company.
by giving you a piece of the pie.
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
It is.
It's like they're creating a system where everyone's invested in pushing the boundaries.
Everyone wins. But to ensure fairness in all of this, Huawei relies on 3 core principles:
Okay, lay them on me.
efficiency,
Okay,
fairness,
makes sense.
and sustainability.
So it's about rewarding high performance, but also making sure everyone feels secure.
A sense of balance,
I like that.
Yeah, so how does this translate to their actual compensation structure?
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
It's heavily performance-based, of course.
Makes sense.
High performers are rewarded, but they've designed this system to avoid a sharp drop-off
Oh, interesting.
for those who might be, performing at a slightly lower level.
So it's competitive, but still supportive.
Exactly, a balance.
It's like they're saying, we want you to push yourselves, but we also want you to feel valued.
That's a good way to put it.
It's a delicate balance.
It is.
But it seems to be working for them.
So far, so good.
This all makes me wonder how they approach performance evaluations.
Ooh, good question.
I mean, feedback can be tough, right?
It can be.
No one really likes giving or receiving negative feedback.
No, it's never fun.
But Huawei seems to consider them absolutely essential.
Oh, yeah.
Even though they acknowledge that evaluations can be, well, imperfect.
Right.
So why bother at all?
Well, they base their evaluations on 5 key assumptions.
5 key assumptions. Okay, I'm ready.
First, they believe in employee responsibility,
Okay.
meaning everyone is accountable for their own performance.
I can get behind that.
Second, they acknowledge that no evaluation system is perfect.
Right, so it's about focusing on the big picture.
Exactly.
And using that feedback as a tool for growth.
Exactly. What else is it going to be for?
Okay, so those are 2.
Number 3 is they prioritize actual performance.
Oh, so not just someone's attitude or, potential.
Yep, results matter.
Okay,
Fourth, they encourage learning from mistakes.
I like that.
They view mistakes as inevitable steps
Right.
in that process of growth and development.
It's all part of the journey.
Exactly.
So it's okay to mess up as long as you learn from it.
As long as you learn from it.
Okay, what's number 5?
They emphasize the shared responsibility of managers for their team's performance.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's not just about holding individuals accountable.
Right, it's about creating a supportive environment where everyone can succeed.
Exactly, that's the key.
This is such a holistic approach to feedback.
It is.
And, to development in general.
Yeah, and that leads us to one of the most innovative aspects of Huawei's system, their internal labor market.
Internal labor market, what is that?
Think of it like an internal stock exchange.
For talent.
Yeah.
Okay, this sounds intriguing.
It allows employees to move between departments,
Okay.
roles within the company.
So exploring new opportunities without having to leave.
Exactly.
Imagine if you could just shift gears within your current company instead of jumping ship for a new challenge.
That's the idea.
Okay, but how does this market actually work?
So let's say an employee is consistently underperforming.
Okay.
They can enter what Huawei calls the internal resource pool.
Internal resource pool, okay?
Mhm.
It's kind of a safety net, right?
I see.
Allows them to explore other roles, potentially find a better fit.
So it's not just about punishing them.
No.
It's about giving them a chance to find their niche.
To contribute in a different way.
I like that.
And it's not just for low performers either.
Oh, interesting.
Any employee looking for new challenges can enter this pool.
Wow. Even a top performer could switch gears
Absolutely.
without having to leave the company.
That's the beauty of it.
That's pretty radical.
It is. It really fosters that internal mobility.
Encourages people to stay.
To grow.
Right. Which is good for the company.
Good for everyone.
It reduces turnover.
Remains talent.
Right. But I imagine it has its challenges too.
It does, yeah.
What if key people are constantly moving around?
That's a valid concern.
It seems like it could get disruptive.
It could, for sure.
How do managers handle that?
It requires careful planning,
Okay, so it's not a perfect system.
No system is perfect.
Right, but it's definitely a unique approach.
It is. So we've talked about attracting talent, rewarding performance, facilitating internal job changes.
Yep.
What about developing their employee skills in the first place?
That's where their 721 theory comes in.
Okay, 721 theory. I'm all ears.
They believe 70% of employee development comes from practice,
Okay.
20% from mentorship,
Okay.
and only 10% from formal training.
So they're big on learning by doing.
Huge.
They're not just throwing people in a classroom.
No, they're throwing them in the fire.
Okay, so they're not coddling people, they're empowering them through experience.
Exactly.
I can see how that would foster a sense of ownership.
It does.
And accountability.
Absolutely.
But this 721 theory,
Yeah.
it's not just some abstract concept, right?
No.
They actively implement it.
Through things like job rotation.
So no getting stuck in a rut.
Especially for management positions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Keeps them fresh.
Give them a broader perspective.
A wider view.
Right, prevents them from getting stagnant. The more versatile the managers are.
The better the company runs.
Right, the better equipped they are to lead.
To navigate.
To handle the complexities of a global company.
A global company like Huawei.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
It does.
And this leads us to another critical aspect.
Hit me.
Their emphasis on grooming future leaders.
Oh, this is a good one.
Do they have some sort of, elite leadership academy?
Not quite an academy.
Okay, but they definitely prioritize it.
Big time.
So what are they looking for in a potential leader?
Well, first and foremost, dedication to Huawei's mission.
So it's not just about skills.
No.
It's about believing in what they stand for.
You got it.
They have to be true believers.
True believers who walk the walk.
Okay, what else?
Strong leadership qualities, of course.
Yeah, that's a given.
They want people who can inspire.
Right, who can motivate others.
Make tough decisions.
Yeah, handle those tough situations.
Exactly. And lastly, a commitment to continuous learning.
So they want lifelong learners.
Always looking to improve.
Not just resting on their laurels.
Not at all.
Makes sense. Got to keep evolving.
That's the Huawei way.
Okay, but how do they actually spot these future leaders?
One way is through participation in high-level meetings and committees.
So they're watching how people interact.
How they articulate their ideas.
How they handle those challenging situations.
Exactly. It's not just about individual performance metrics.
Right. They're looking for people who can think critically, collaborate, demonstrate those leadership qualities even when they're not in charge.
Yes, that's the key.
Okay. But once they've identified these potential leaders,
Yeah.
how do they actually help them develop those skills?
Targeted training.
Okay.
Mentorship.
Got it.
Challenging assignments that push them beyond their comfort zones.
So it's all about deliberate development.
Very strategic.
And this brings us to another key element.
Okay.
Succession planning.
The big question.
Right. How does Huawei ensure that their leadership pipeline is always full?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
All right, let's dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. So we were talking about succession planning.
Right. Like, how do they make sure they always have strong leaders ready to step up?
It's all about internal development for Huawei.
They don't go looking outside the company?
Not really. They believe in nurturing the talent they already have.
Okay, but they must have some pretty strict standards, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what are they looking for in a potential successor?
First and foremost, dedication to Huawei's mission.
So it's not just about being good at your job.
No, it's about believing in what the company stands for.
Gotta be a true believer, huh?
You got it.
What else?
A proven track record of contribution.
So they need to have actually delivered results.
Yeah, they need to walk the walk.
Okay, makes sense.
And then, of course, strong leadership qualities.
Yeah. Got to be able to inspire and motivate people.
Make tough decisions.
Navigate those tricky situations.
Exactly. And last but not least, a commitment to continuous learning.
So they're looking for those lifelong learners.
Always striving to improve.
Never satisfied with the status quo.
Exactly.
Makes sense. The world's changing so fast.
Got to keep up.
So to help prepare these potential leaders, they have this program, the High Research class.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
I remember reading about it, but I'm still not quite clear on what it entails.
Think of it as an intensive leadership boot camp.
A boot camp. Okay, tell me more.
It's a mix of academic study, real-world simulations.
Okay, so it's not just theory.
No, they're actually applying what they learn.
In a controlled environment.
Exactly. They're given challenging assignments.
To test their decision-making skills.
Yeah, they got to think strategically, make tough calls under pressure.
Sounds intense.
It is, but it's incredibly valuable.
Yeah, you can't really learn leadership from a textbook.
Nope. Got to experience it firsthand.
And they have mentors to guide them through the process.
Oh, yeah, seasoned veterans who provide feedback and support.
It's like they're throwing them in the deep end, but with a life preserver.
That's a good analogy.
This whole approach to leadership development is pretty remarkable.
It is. It really aligns with their 721 theory.
Right. Experience is the best teacher.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, we talked about their knowledge capitalization concept earlier.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Can we unpack that a bit more?
Sure. It all starts with recognizing that employee knowledge is a valuable asset.
Like their collective expertise.
Exactly. It's like a giant knowledge bank.
But how do they actually tap into that bank and turn it into something tangible?
One way is through a strong emphasis on documentation and knowledge sharing.
So they're not just creating knowledge, they're capturing it.
Sharing it throughout the organization.
Making sure it doesn't get lost.
Exactly. They have a robust system for disseminating best practices, lessons learned, all that good stuff.
So it's like a company-wide brain trust.
Yeah, and everyone has access.
That's pretty powerful.
It is. It fosters innovation and helps everyone make better decisions.
But what about protecting that knowledge?
That's where their IP strategy comes in.
Okay, so they have a strong IP team.
They do. They manage their patent portfolio, license their technology, even engage in strategic partnerships.
So they're not just sitting on their knowledge, they're leveraging it.
They're turning it into a competitive advantage.
That's smart.
It's all part of their knowledge capitalization strategy.
So it's a multifaceted approach.
Create knowledge, share it internally, protect it, and then leverage it externally.
Wow, it's like a well-oiled machine.
And it all ties back to their focus on human capital.
Investing in their people, creating that culture of learning and innovation.
It's all connected.
It's pretty remarkable, really.
It is. It shows how much they value their employees.
And how that investment pays off in the long run.
Exactly.
So we've talked about their innovation, their culture, their value systems, their performance evaluations, their internal labor market, their development programs, their leadership grooming, their succession planning, and now their knowledge capitalization strategy.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, but it's a fascinating case study.
In the power of human capital.
Right. But we've mostly focused on the positive aspects.
It's important to acknowledge that no system is perfect.
That's a good point. There are always trade-offs.
What are some of the potential downsides of this approach?
Yeah. What are the potential drawbacks?
Well, one criticism is that this intense focus on performance could lead to burnout.
Yeah, that pressure cooker environment.
It can take a toll.
Especially in the tech industry, where long hours are often the norm.
Right. It's a real concern.
And what about creativity and dissent?
Good point.
If everyone's so focused on aligning with the company mission,
there might be less room for individual expression.
Or challenging the status quo.
Exactly. It's a double-edged sword.
So while a shared sense of purpose is powerful,
it's important to maintain a balance.
Allow space for diverse perspectives.
Healthy debate.
And we can't ignore the geopolitical context.
Right. Huawei's close ties to the Chinese government have raised some concerns.
About potential ethical implications.
And conflicts of interest.
It's something to keep in mind.
Absolutely.
So while there's a lot to admire about Huawei's approach,
it's important to approach it with a critical eye.
Recognize both the strengths and the weaknesses.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's shift our focus from Huawei's internal workings to the broader implications.
Okay.
What can other organizations, even individuals, learn from this?
That's the million-dollar question.
How can we adapt these principles to different contexts?
That's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
The challenges of implementation.
The potential benefits of a more human-centric approach.
It's all about finding what works for you.
Exactly, and applying it in a way that makes sense for your organization.
Or even for your own personal growth.
Right. There's something here for everyone.
So stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive into Huawei's human capital philosophy.
We'll be right back.
So we've uncovered some truly fascinating stuff about Huawei, right?
Oh, yeah.
But how much of this is actually doable for other companies? I mean, not everyone's a global tech giant with endless resources.
That's the challenge, isn't it? Adapting these principles to different contexts.
Right, because you can't just copy-paste Huawei's system.
No way. Got to find what works for you.
So let's get practical. Okay.
All right, let's do it.
Let's say you're a startup founder.
Okay.
You're totally inspired by Huawei.
Love it.
But you don't exactly have the budget for a massive internal labor market or, a fancy high research class.
Right. You got to be scrappy.
What can you do?
Start small.
Okay, like what?
Instead of a full-blown internal labor market, encourage cross-functional projects.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Or job shadowing.
Yeah, that's great for helping people explore different roles.
Exactly. It gives them a taste of what else is out there.
And it doesn't have to cost a fortune.
No, it's all about being creative.
And what about leadership development?
Same thing. You don't need fancy programs.
So what can you do?
create mentorship opportunities, encourage professional development courses,
Oh,
give
yeah.
people challenging assignments.
Push them outside their comfort zone.
Exactly. Help them grow.
I like that.
Empower them to take ownership.
And what about knowledge capitalization? Can smaller companies even do that?
Absolutely.
Really? I mean, how?
Start with a culture of documentation.
Okay, like write things down.
Yeah, and share knowledge.
Okay, so don't keep it all to yourself.
No way. Get it out there.
So even something as simple as a shared online platform.
Yeah, where people can collaborate, access information, document best practices.
Makes sense.
It can make a huge difference.
Okay, but what about protecting that knowledge?
Talk to an IP lawyer.
Okay, to understand the basics.
Yeah, like how to protect your patents and trademarks.
Makes sense.
And remember, sometimes the most valuable knowledge isn't technology.
Right, it's the stuff you can't patent.
The processes, the insights, the relationships.
So knowledge capitalization is bigger than just legal stuff.
It's a mindset.
It's about recognizing the value as what you know.
And using it strategically.
I like that.
And when it comes to leadership grooming, you don't need a formal program.
Okay, so how do you spot potential leaders?
Look for people who demonstrate those qualities no matter what their job title is.
So it's about seeing the potential, even if it's not obvious.
Exactly.
And once you spot those people, what do?
Give them opportunities to lead.
Like delegate important tasks.
Yeah, involve them in strategic discussions, encourage them to mentor others.
Bring a culture of leadership at all levels.
That's the goal.
Man, this has been eye-opening.
It has, right?
I think the big takeaway here is that even if you can't be Huawei,
Yeah,
you can still learn from them.
100%.
It's about those core principles: valuing employees, fostering a shared mission, and enabling growth.
Those are universal.
It's a mindset shift,
Seeing people as your most valuable asset.
not just cogs in a machine.
Exactly.
And this applies to individuals too, right?
Okay.
What can you do to invest in your own WN growth?
Right. Share your knowledge. Step into a leadership role, even if you're not the CEO.
That's a powerful thought,
It is. We all have the potential to make a difference.
no matter where we are in our careers.
Exactly.
So to everyone listening, here's a challenge for you.
Okay, I like it.
What's one small step you can take today to embrace these principles?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of impact can you make starting right now?
It's something to think about.
It is. And as always, thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Keep learning. Keep exploring.
We'll see you next time.